Dabba-dee.
Dabba-die. All right.
We're live.
Well, now that we're properly recording and acting like we know what we're doing,
Which we always do.
welcome to the Tomato Pulpit.
We're back.
On this very special episode, we have new things happening to the pulpit.
Run it.
So I would like to start with just how I've decided I want to break this podcast down moving forward. And I'm going to be a segment girl. We're going to have segments.
Love it.
It's going to be segmented. And I only have about 5 segments. Obviously, things are bound to expand and retract as we find the flow. And eventually, like, edits and things will come into this podcast. But again, I think I'm only on, like, episode 6, 7?
Something like that.
Something like
I
that?
think 6.
6. Still very
That's my
early.
guess.
Still very early in the program. So, my 5 segments moving forward. Number 1 is going to be called Profiles in Assholery.
Okay.
So that segment is I'm going to focus on one person who I believe to be an asshole.
Love it.
And just give you a bio and why I think he's an asshole.
Great.
So, short list: Mitch McConnell,
Yep.
Rupert Murdoch,
Yep.
Diddy.
Diddy.
You know, they'll all make appearance on this segment eventually. Next segment is going to be How Queer.
How queer.
How Queer. This one is just going to be kind of like more weird existential quandaries and queerness.
Fair.
So, free will, AI, space, rockets,
Okay. Love it.
crocs. All that's going to be within How Queer.
All right. Done.
The next is The Comings of the Court.
Okay.
Comings of the Court. This one, it's Supreme Court. We're going to talk about the Supreme Court and how they are just so good at fucking everything up these days. And then after that, we have something I like to call the white plight.
The white plight.
This one is dedicated to all my Antifa lovers out there. This segment is dedicated to everything fuck you fascists.
Okay.
So whatever the fascists are doing, we're going to talk about it and hate on them.
Okay. Done.
And then the next one and the last one so far is going to be called Vicious Lies and Rumors. And this one is just like pop culture.
Okay. We need
So,
it.
you know, random things that I find in the news or things that I, you know, gay news or just life news.
Okay. I like it. I like all those.
All right. Yeah, I think it's fun. It was kind of, you know, I wanted to have fun with the names of it. I didn't want it to be like today in this segment it's politics, in this segment it's news. I want to have some fun with the names.
That's fun. We need good names.
Yeah. So first we're going to start with The Comings of the Court.
Let's go.
We're going to start with The Comings of the Court.
Comings
So
of the court.
the recent Supreme Court session has ended and they are unloading all of their rulings and opinions.
Uh-oh.
And there's plenty of bad ones. But right now, the one I want to focus on that I think is going to cause some real big problems in the future, thank you, Harry, you're so cute, is the most recent case called Trump v. CASA or CASA, C-A-S-A.
Okay. Casa, maybe?
Casa, su casa, es mi casa?
Yeah,
Don't
could
know.
be.
So the backstory behind this case. Do you remember, I want to say it was, I mean, we've only been 6 months into this bullshit, which is crazy.
Scary.
It was early on, Trump signed an executive order banning birthright citizenship.
Okay.
Do you remember when this happened?
Yes.
So, which is unconstitutional. It's literally in the Constitution that if you're born in the United States, you are, you know, you have to abide by the jurisdictions and blah, 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 blah thereof.
Right.
So just actively defying the 14th Amendment, whatever.
Terrible.
So for obvious reasons, there were district courts that said this is unconstitutional and issued a universal injunction,
Yep.
which essentially puts a stop on the enforcement of the executive order because it's not, well, a judge has deemed it unconstitutional and then it has to go through the litigation process.
Okay.
And then go from there. So injunctions are essentially ways where courts can kind of check executive power by saying, no, this doesn't appear right with the Constitution. We're going to put a pause on this as it gets litigated, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right. It's very normal. It's been happening for a long time. And the whole idea of it is to reduce harm. So with this executive order ending birthright citizenship, the whole idea of these universal injunctions is to prevent the harm that would happen to people who get born here and then don't have citizenship. Crazy. So the court actually wasn't so much interested in the constitutionality of the executive order.
Okay.
They actually didn't answer this question, and I believe in Barrett's majority opinion, she said something to the effect of like, we're just going to leave that to the lower courts to figure out. That's not for us right now.
Interesting.
Yeah. So the question that the court was dealing with was, are universal injunctions valid? Can a universal injunction stand against a president's executive order? And Amy Coney Barrett, our Seventh Circuit Midwestern diva, wrote the majority opinion, and I read it. It's not very long, and she's really cunty.
Uh-oh.
Like, she's really cunty. So one thing that really kind of surprised me about this opinion is that usually the judges in their opinions, they don't really name drop the other judges. They don't usually like engage in personals, because that's just beneath them. It's beneath the court to do all that stuff. But Barrett, in her opinion, was like, Justice Jackson clearly doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. Like, she really name dropped hard and went after her. So I thought that was really scary to see. But ultimately, the majority opinion of the court was that universal injunctions don't exist. They're not real. And injunctions are only valid to a specific plaintiff that has brought suit. So say Donald Trump, creates an executive order that says, I don't know, it ends birthright citizenship. We'll just stick with that one. And there are obviously a bunch of people born in the United States that aren't necessarily citizens, but become citizens by birthright citizenship.
Right.
The only way for them to gain citizenship, to have this harm from this executive order relieved upon them, is to file suit within their state. And then it's that judge that has to issue the injunction for that individual plaintiff. So there's no like blanket protections anymore. Everything is now into the individual.
Yikes.
And Barrett's justification from this is that it's leveling the playing field between the government and the plaintiff. So Barrett was, she's saying something to the effect of like, it's not fair that a court can issue a universal injunction, but the government is just like one entity doing doing what it can.
Right.
This is causing irreparable harm to the government if they can't enforce these executive orders.
Okay.
And thus, universal injunctions don't exist. So really, the president now can effectively do whatever the fuck he wants, and unless you as an individual have filed suit and that judge has granted a stay on your case or whatever the legalese terms is, you're okay.
Wow.
So essentially this turns into justice for the rich, because it's not cheap to enter the United States legal system.
True.
You got to pay for lawyers, you got to pay court fees, you got to do all this shit. And if you are an immigrant who is seeking asylum in the United States, you don't have a lot of money, I'm going to assume. I'm going to assume that you have desperately left your country because it's in such dire straits that you've entered the United States.
Okay.
And you need help.
Yeah, that's fair assumption.
Fair assumption. But
Totally
the government
fair
has literally just said you can go fuck yourself if you don't have money.
Yikes.
Because Donald Trump says, I can do whatever I want. I don't have to follow the Constitution at all. So stay tuned on the birthright citizenship if when the court eventually does take up that question,
Yeah.
if the 14th Amendment to the Constitution is fucking constitutional,
Totally.
we'll have that out.
They better get that figured out.
So that one to me is just scary because essentially Trump can do whatever the fuck he wants. Really.
Right.
And if you don't have the money, then you're fucked. So that's the comings of the court. And I did think it was annoying that the court didn't take up the birthright citizenship question. Like, there's so many cases that you could have brought to the court about injunctions
Yeah.
that didn't deal with like something so intense as birthright citizenship and something such a, like, antagonizing or such an attack on the fucking Constitution.
Right.
And then the court was just like, no,
No, not interested.
we're not going to do
We'll
that.
pass that on.
We're going to let you guys think about it. We're going to let that stew and brew for you. So, in the dissenting opinions, Sotomayor and Jackson go
Really?
They go in. I mean, and essentially they're not wrong. They talk about how this is completely lawless. This is essentially giving the president ultimate authority. And it's holding the government in too high of esteem. And in my opinion, I understand this might not be like legally correct or whatever, but for Barrett to say that like it's unfair because the government is competing against like all these plaintiffs and these universal injunctions is unfair. Fuck you. It's the government of the United States, the most powerful entity the most powerful entity in the world probably.
Right.
But yet it's not fair. That to me seems so tone deaf and just so like out of reality. Like you are so out of touch with the real shit on the ground.
For sure.
That's
No
how
doubt.
it really came off to me. And that's it. And the idea of Barrett being this like moderate woman is fucking gone. She was never moderate. There were some cases early on, or like last session, I believe, where she like sided with the liberals and like her and Roberts. So everyone was just like, oh my God, is Coney Barrett transitioning? No, bitch. No.
Hell no.
She's still a fuck through and through. So, coming to the court, what do you think about that one? You excited about your universal injunctions no longer existing?
No, I'm not excited about that. I'm not. I really hope that that the courts decide to give that a closer look. I think
Yeah, it's too late.
it's too late. It's over.
No double
We're
jeopardy.
screwed.
No double jeopardy. I mean,
We'll
there
see how
could
this one plays out. Then I guess.
eventually. I mean, like this court is rolling back a lot of precedents. So I guess if this is the new precedent, there is a possibility that they can change it back to what it was. But we would need the supermajority of the conservatives to leave. So that would require, well, one, not a Republican president. We would need a Democrat in office first.
Yeah.
And a Democratic Senate, because Mitch McConnell has proven that he will not allow Democrats to appoint justices, even though it is strictly laid out in the Constitution that they have that right to do that. But he's not the majority leader
My
anymore.
God.
Now it's like some guy from, I think he's from Utah or some shit. I don't know. He sucks. I think his name is Thune. But this court really scares me. I'm not going to lie. I knew when Barrett got like appointed and confirmed,
Yeah.
like I knew that we were in a really scary place just because it was such a Hippocratic moment
Right.
or hypocritical moment.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah, not the Hippocratic Oath. Because, you know, they wouldn't let Merrick Garland go through the process because we were 1 year out of an election and
Yeah.
Obama was president. But we'll rush Barrett within 30 days of an election because now we have power. And this is when the Democrats piss me off, is that like the Republicans play fuck you politics.
Right.
They really do. Like, by all rules of decorum and history, like Mitch McConnell should have never done that. But he had the authority and he's like, I have the fucking power, so I'm going to fucking do it.
Yeah.
But the Democrats now, they're trying to be this party of like keeping norms alive. But it's gone. The norms are gone. It's time to buck the fuck up and
Buck
find
up.
seriously and like start hitting back at these people. because if you don't, we're screwed, and we're not going to fall into like a totalitarian state like China, Russia. That's not the that's not the track that we're on, because the power it is consolidating within the executive.
Yeah.
But ultimately, how the Project 2025 is seeming to shake out is that they want everything to actually fall within the private industry. They want government to essentially disappear, and they want private industry to run everything.
That's bad news.
So, I mean, it's a plutocracy, it's an oligarchy, I don't know, it's a corporatocracy, I don't even know what the technical term is, but seems to be the end goal for Project 2025. And this big, beautiful bill that just got passed, this budget reconciliation, is a fast track to that. And I don't know if, I mean, this is now a tangent off the court, but I don't know. There was a provision in or a section within the bill that says AI developers can do whatever the fuck they want for 10 years.
Oh my God.
And you cannot regulate. States cannot regulate. That passed the House initially, and then a bunch of Republicans came out being like, I don't support that. If I knew that was a thing, I would have never voted for this bill. But it's just like, obviously y'all don't do your fucking jobs and know how to read.
Oh my God.
Marjorie Taylor Greene. So when it hit the Senate, I think that got amended out. I'm not positive. I haven't read the newest version of the bill.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's an incredibly long bill, and honestly, I don't read all of it. Sometimes I just throw it into ChatGPT and say, summarize it for me.
Yeah.
All tea, all shade. It's true. I just do it that way because I don't have time to read 1,000 pages of legalese and I don't know, legislative bullshit.
Yeah, it's no fun.
So, but eventually there's some, dimes in there that you need to uncover. So that did pass today, though. It did pass the House, and Trump's going to sign it into law, assuming tomorrow. Projection is 500,000 plus people in Illinois are going to lose health insurance. My taxes are going to go up. I don't know how much you make, but I'm assuming it's less than $10 million.
Yeah, it's less than $10 million.
So your taxes are going to go up.
Lucky me.
Yeah, so stay tuned on that. I'll probably get more into that on the next pulpit.
Yeah.
Because that is something that does require a little bit more in-depth attention.
We're going to have to hit it hard.
So now I'm gonna sandwich in a little fun.
Let's go.
A little gay fun, a
Here
little drama conflama, a little vicious lies and rumors. Something that I caught on the news like 2 weeks ago or a week ago, and I was like, this bitch. This bitch. Okay.
Jinx.
So, do you know who JoJo Siwa is?
Yeah, we are. Are you kidding me?
Oh yeah, we all know this bow pushing bitch.
Yep.
So JoJo Siwa is not a lesbian anymore.
I've heard that.
Yeah, she has transitioned back to the dark side.
Yikes.
This happened. She was on Big Brother, I guess.
I heard that too.
And she fell in love with one of the co-stars, and it's a heterosexual match made in heaven.
Wow, good for her.
So after Big Brother ends, her and her new boo thing are out in the public eye, and she did an interview with Daily Mail.
Okay.
Or U Magazine, which is Daily Mail's magazine or whatever. And in it, she talked about how she felt pressured into being a lesbian.
What?
Yes. Quote, when I came out at 17, I said, I'm pansexual because I don't care, and I'm assuming about gender or sexuality. But then I kind of boxed myself in and said, I'm lesbian. And I think I did that because of pressure. To which, Miss Siwa, whether or not you did experience pressure to be a lesbian is not the world's business.
That's true.
Because here's what I think is happening here, or at least here's my theory about this whole becoming straight and the article in U Magazine. I think JoJo Siwa is trying to regain her Christian mom base.
Really?
So when JoJo was going wild, right? She's like, I'm transitioning from the bow girl to a gay pop star. There was a video that went viral of her being like, I'm doing something that nobody's ever done before. It's called gay pop.
Yeah, I remember that.
right? Which is like, bitch, no. But so that transition into like queer entertainment and that kind of stuff, I think it flopped.
Yeah.
The gays didn't get on board. Her music wasn't cute. It wasn't good. I'm so sorry, JoJo.
Fact.
It wasn't good. Your outfits were chop.com for a gay person. Like, you're gay. Well, you were. So you can surround yourself with gay people that know fashion and know aesthetics, but you decided to go like almost like hetero kiss type of energy thing.
Yeah.
It was so cringe, dude. It was so bad. But you could have been, a bombshell lesbian and you dropped the ball on it, and that's your fault.
Failure.
It really is. But like, my beef is like, why are we just not like, yeah, I was gay and I found this guy and I really like him. I might still be gay, but I like this guy. Why do you have to say like, I felt pressured to become
weird.
lesbian? So it just kind of gives ammunition for homophobes.
Totally.
And I think this is her play to get back into the good graces of the people that once bought her bows.
Okay.
Because she was like a Disney or like Nickelodeon thing for a
Right.
while. Like, she was on Dance Moms. I think that's originally how she broke out. And then got famous for kids stuff, like kids shows, kids products. She was on Serial and some shit, whatever.
Oh, God.
And I think that base of clientele was like upper middle class,
Yeah.
upper class white moms and families with white daughters,
Totally.
and that demographic is more inclined to be conservative and less down with the gays. And so I think, and you don't go on Big Brother, especially Celebrity Big Brother, if your career is like hot right now.
Totally.
You only go on this show if you're like in a weird area where like you don't know where you're going.
Transitional phase.
You're in a transitional phase. And
Totally.
you don't know how the audience is reacting to you, so you go on these shows to get, essentially data about how the public views you.
Right.
And I think that was all a play to get back into the good graces of these upper white families.
Yeah.
So I'm a little peeved by Miss Siwa. I'm a little.
So you're not rooting for JoJo.
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not. I'm sure. I mean, like, she's got more money than God, I'm pretty sure.
Well,
And she'll be fine without or with the gays. But I just thought this whole article coming out and saying you were pressured was like,
very silly.
I think it's just bad. I think it's
Yeah.
bad form. It's bad taste. And it's really not going to make the gays like you anymore when you eventually do come back to the gays.
True. And they always do.
They always do. You cannot pray the gay away.
Can't do it.
It's not happening.
There you go.
So, yeah, what do you think about Siwa?
No, I think that.
You think
I think that was fun.
Do you think my theory has some there? That's
think
just
that
that's just
there
trying to go
could-
back to being straight.
Oh, for sure.
And she might like this guy. She might have found love, and maybe his dick is bomb.
Could be.
Maybe it's the best dick ever.
Yeah.
And to that I say, get your rocks, girl.
Yeah. Good for you, JoJo.
Get your rocks, but do not come for the lesbians. I have no patience for the people that come for the lesbians, because the lesbians are the best amongst us.
Are they really?
Yes.
Okay. Why is that?
Have you ever met a bad lesbian?
Not many. No,
You can't, because they don't exist.
Okay. There you go.
Bad lesbians do not exist.
You heard it here first.
They will fix your car. They will give you a carabiner. And they will give you the flannel off their back,
Beautiful.
because that's what lesbians do.
That's sweet.
Let's
Okay.
go, lesbians. Let's go.
Let's do it.
So, Vicious Lies and Rumors, JoJo Siwa, not a lesbian.
Beautiful.
All right, so that was the fun sandwich, and now we're gonna get into like the not so fun sandwich.
All right, let's
World
hit
War
it.
III, baby.
All right.
So this is the section of the pulpit for the segment White Plight.
White plate.
White Plight, we're dealing with fascists. And I know, Mike, you just said Israel, and you're also talking about fascists? That seems so weird. No. I'm going to say you're wrong, because if you have eyes and ears and you understand basic English and perhaps Hebrew, I think it is more than abundantly clear that the Israeli state, not the Israeli people, I don't want a blanket statement, all people of Israel, all Jews.
No.
I just want to talk about the Netanyahu administration and his cronies are fascists. Undoubtedly fascists. They're playing the playbook to a T. So, do you recall when Israel decided to bomb Iran?
Very recently.
Very recently,
Yeah.
like this last month,
Right.
in June. To which I remember seeing that headline and just almost collapsing to my knees, like, you fucking idiots.
For real.
You fucking idiots.
Yeah.
Because not only is Israel fascistly occupying Gaza and creating settlements in the West Bank, which are Palestinian land, though it may not be recognized by the international community, it's fucking Palestinian land. And then bombing Lebanon, another, like, their neighbor to the north, and then these, like, pager bombs against Hamas.
Yeah.
Do you remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Which, to me, like, that is actually a very impressive operation. Like, I mean, like, the Mossad, like, you guys really popped off there. Like, that was really impressive.
Yeah,
It was. It's very impressive that they were able to somehow hack into the supply chain of Hamas, put bombs into these pagers, and then set them all off at the same time. It's very impressive.
That is impressive.
I'm not going to lie. I was impressed. But that was before they really just decided to go fucking full terrorist. So, as Israel is occupying Gaza, they are literally carpet bombing men, women, and children, hospitals. I sent my Yaya an article, I don't know if she ever got it, where there's a Greek Orthodox church in Gaza, and it was housing a bunch of refugees, Christians and Muslims, Palestinians alike, and Israel bombed the fuck out of it and killed everybody.
Oh my God.
So it's crazy to me as a student of history, if you will, to witness a genocide in real time.
That's terrible, though.
Where, like, I mean, were we alive for Rwanda? Rwanda was in the 90s. I don't know if we were alive for Rwanda. And we weren't alive for the Holocaust, obviously.
True.
Weren't alive for the Khmer Rouge. We're not alive for the Armenians, the
True.
Turks. Yeah, the closest one that I could think of, I guess, would be Rwanda or South Sudan. There's some questions about ethnic cleansing and stuff. But, or no, in Myanmar against the Rohingya. That's been deemed an ethnic cleansing. It's not considered a genocide. But, like, what's the difference? Honestly.
Probably not much.
Yeah. So Israel's committing a genocide, which the irony of that all is still wild to me, that Israel was founded as a sanctuary for those affected by genocide.
Yep.
Only to effect a genocide against their neighbors.
Jeez.
And you can't make that shit up. And Netanyahu is such a fuck. And he's been wanting to do this forever. He's used Hamas as scapegoats. That's the reason why they still exist, is because he needs them to be the bad guys so he can get this political leverage.
Right.
You know, it's enemy politics. And then his defense minister or somebody like related to the IDF, which is the Israeli Defense Force, which ain't defending shit. It should be called the Israeli Fascist Force.
Yikes.
Has openly said that they're going to kill every Palestinian and
God.
occupy Gaza. I just said it like bold. And actually, Netanyahu is wanted. He's a wanton criminal by the International Criminal Court. But the United States does not abide by the International Criminal Court. They have not signed on to it. So he is actually coming here in the next couple of days, and he's going to be fine. Like, we can't do anything. But say he was to go to France, say he was to go to Ireland or South Africa, I believe those nations would have an obligation to arrest him, because he's a war criminal. And it was South Africa that brought the case against him in the international court in tandem with Ireland. It's a very fantastic speech by both parties. I remember when that first happened, like last year,
Yeah.
I believe. But I also wanted to talk about just like a general timeline of things that have happened, because now we're involved.
Yeah.
The United States decided to bomb Iran.
Totally.
And this just is going to make Israel even more out to be the bad guy, because Iran, I understand that the Ayatollah and his people might fund or provide aid to Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, these type of Shia militant groups.
Yeah,
and it's all part of like influence in the region, right? Like it's always been a battle between Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Iran, essentially for dominance in the Middle East.
Okay.
Iraq like had its moment until the United States overthrew it.
Yep.
But right now the big three are Israel, Saudi Arabia, and Iran. And Israel, obviously wanting to be the top dog, is now playing a very antagonistic game where they killed an Iranian. They have killed a bunch of like Iranian scientists and nuclear engineers to like help prevent the Iranians from building a nuclear program, which I'm kind of on the fence of. I don't think you should kill these people, but I'm also agreeing that we should not expand nuclear weapons.
Fair.
I don't think we need more. We can already kill the world like 1 billion times over. We don't need more.
I think you're right.
So I'm fine with like whatever we need to do to get Iran to not have a nuclear weapon. And there was the JCPOA, something like that. It was a deal that was done by the Obama administration,
right,
to have the International Nuclear Energy Commission or whatever, the IEC or whatever it's called, go in and regulate Iran's non-military nuclear program. Because I think like any nation, you have a right to produce your own energy. And if you want to have nuclear reactors, have a fucking nuclear reactor.
You could. Totally.
Do it. But there's a fine line between the technology of nuclear reactors and nuclear weapons. It's just like a couple extra steps and you have yourself a bomb.
Right.
So you do have to tread with some caution. But according to this agreement that was signed by Iran, they were like, yeah, we're down. We're fine. You can have your regulators come and check out our facilities. That's not to say that like they might have a secret facility somewhere else.
Right.
But at least we were like in a positive movement on open discussion about nuclear proliferation and the need of the world to not have more weapons. There was discussion there, and it seemed to be some decent air between the two nations that have been pretty steady rivals since the 70s.
Wow, okay.
And then Trump got into office and said, Obama did that? Fuck that.
Oh, no.
And there's no reason. They'll say, oh, it was a bad deal, but then they don't give an actual reason. They just say it was a bad deal.
Of course they do.
So that is kind of the beginning of the end for this Middle Eastern conflict.
Yeah.
Because Iran left the organization, Israel's just like, oh, they're going to get a bomb. They're going to get a bomb in 10 days,
Yikes.
which Netanyahu has been saying for the past 20 years. That Iran is 2 weeks from a nuclear weapon. He's literally, you can go back through the clips, and he's been saying this since like the 80s.
Yeah.
Just fucking stupid. And then I don't know what Netanyahu said to Trump to get him on board to bomb Iran, but I was shocked by that, because during his campaign, his whole thing was like, no war, we're not getting involved in any wars. And then
just like that.
Yeah. I have a theory that I'll get into maybe in a couple seconds about like why I think that happened, but let's just get into the timeline.
Okay.
So in March of 2025, the director of national intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, said Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. We do not have to worry. This is the chief intelligence officer in the United States. This person should have the most knowledge available about what's going on.
Right.
And they have said Iran is not building a weapon. Everything's fine, relatively. we can chill the fuck out.
Okay.
There
Good.
was like some mappings of facilities and stuff, but so be it. Everybody seems to be vibing.
All right, that's good news at least.
So in April of 2025, Iran executes an alleged Israeli agent. But meanwhile, all this before this is happening, like Israel has killed Iranian generals, Iranian nuclear scientists, all that.
Bing, bing, bing.
So
bang.
let's keep that in mind, that Israel is the aggressor, in my opinion, in this situation.
Okay.
So in June of 2025, it says June 12th, the International Atomic Energy Agency, the IAEA, that's what I was trying to say earlier, passed a resolution declaring that Iran is non-compliant with their nuclear obligations. So that put Israel on like a holy fucking shit, we gotta go, we gotta do it.
Right.
So literally the next day, Israel launched Operation Rising Lion,
Oh my God, what a name.
which was a major military airstrike against Iran's nuclear facilities, infrastructure, and key personnel. So this is one thing about Israel that blows my mind, right? So there was a general or a nuclear scientist who was killed in his home. He was just chilling in his home. And Israel's technology, they were able to know the exact room he was in. They were able, like, through all this data and fuckery, they were able to pinpoint the exact location of this person and conduct a very specific targeted strike that didn't result in, I don't think, any additional casualties
Wow.
around this person.
Wow.
But yet, Israel needs to carpet bomb Gaza because
Apparently they don't. No.
Because they're fascists and they want to kill all the Palestinians.
Yeah. No,
So that
that's not-
happens
that can't
June
be.
13th, a targeted strike and all those things, and they attack, Iranian infrastructure.
Oh.
So this is when the United States was just like, yeah, we're going to get involved. We're going to do things. So then the
God.
United States targets nuclear sites with these bunker buster bombs. By all reports, it may have postponed Iran's nuclear capabilities by a couple weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it.
Yikes.
That's it. So
Wow.
hundreds of millions of dollars in this operation for fucking nothing.
Oh my God.
For fucking nothing. And I just can't understand, and I'm assuming it's big financial interests, but like why we always have to fight Israel's shit. Like we always have to do Israel's dirty work.
Yeah, I don't know.
What
Really
is
don't-
that?
I don't understand that.
And I understand like
part either.
AIPAC is a very big influence within the government. Like AIPAC is the Israeli lobbying firm.
Right.
And they have they're right behind the NRA in terms of like influence, So I don't, maybe it's that, or I don't know if Israel's paying all of our elected officials under the table or something, but it is astounding to me that the lengths that this country goes to defend indefensible actions by another country.
Yeah, that is astounding.
And I understand, like, and I'm not, and the big argument is like anything that's anti-Israel is anti-Semitic. I'm not fucking saying it's the Jews. I'm saying it's the leaders of the state.
Right.
I don't give a fuck if you don't believe in Jesus or not. What I give a fuck about is your hatred towards these people that have done nothing to you.
Yep.
I understand like Hamas, that attack on October 7th, which kind of like instigated Israel's response. They're hyperinflated and overreaction to this, but it's just too much. It is just too much, and I'm appalled that some of my friends and family would defend what Israel is doing.
Yeah, I agree.
It is really sad.
100% agree.
So now that we've bombed Iran, like we did that on behalf of Israel with these bunker busters, I think it was like 4 facilities or whatever. And, minor delays. And then there was a ceasefire that was agreed on the next day. and then Israel went and bombed Iran
I saw that.
against the ceasefire. And
Ridiculous
then it
behavior.
produced my favorite clip of Donald Trump ever,
Okay, go.
where he is out in front of the White House, and I think he's like about to get on a helicopter or something. And the reporters are asking him, like, what's going on with Israel, Iran? Like, why did the ceasefire break or whatever? And he goes, you have two nations, two groups that have been fighting so hard for so long, they don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Oh my god.
He said that verbatim. They don't know what the fuck they're doing.
That's ridiculous.
And for once, I said, you know what? You're kind of right, Donald.
oh my god.
You're kind of right. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. And here we are. And
Scary times.
you know, like everyone's on edge. Like it feels like the world is just so on edge right now. And there's some, you know, conspiracies and things to say about like cycles of history.
Mm-hmm.
You know, whenever we reach like large transitions in technological advancements, humanity goes through like very intense moments of conflict. So, you know, you can argue that like World War II, it was like it was new technologies in computing and algorithms and rockets.
Yep.
You know, like that kind of like instigated Germany being like, we're the fucking Ubersmensch and we're gonna, you know, do all this all over again.
Right.
World War One, it was tanks and flamethrowers and the Gatling gun. You know, those those advancements. And today, I think it's AI.
AI is the thing.
I think AI is the new technology that is bringing about all this conflict. Because really, if the United States was to eventually engage in like nation on nation conflict, not this like war on terror bullshit that we did all throughout the 2000s, but if we actually like say engage in conflict with China, it's gonna be our military AI versus China's military AI. That's really what it's gonna be.
That's so silly.
So, and I think that's something to do with what's happening.
You're probably right. You're probably right.
But that's my conspiracy. That's my theory.
I back it.
And I am just, you know, just kind of like watching it happen. You know, I'm just kind of like watching it happen. I recognize my point of privilege by being in the United States and literally thousands of miles away from these conflicts.
Mm-hmm.
But Iran has some moves that could be really scary. So one thing that Iran can do is there's it's like the Horn of Firmouth or Horn of Thumuth or something.
Okay.
There's a little like inlet off like the Red Sea.
Okay.
And it's a massive shipping area.
Okay.
Where I want to say like 40% of the world's oil goes in and out of this place.
Right.
And Iran has threatened to shut it down, which would plummet which would send oil markets into absolute free fall, which would rise the cost of living for everybody in the world.
Right.
And that could be a serious instigation and conflict because now you're not only fucking with, say, like the United States money, Israel's money, Europe's money, you're fucking with China's money, you're fucking with Russia's money, you're fucking with India's money. Yeah. And once you have all those big players involved and they're all pointing fingers at like, you're fucking with this, you did this because of that, I mean, you're asking for a world conflict.
Yeah, it's over.
But I think Iran, I don't know the Ayatollah very well. Like, I don't really actually know the history of the Ayatollah that well, other than like there was a coup that we participated in and then there was a religious revolution that brought him into power.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he's like horribly suicidal where he's like ready to blow up the world.
Right.
And it is not in Iran's best interest to close off that shipping facility. It isn't. But they could do something that could do some fuckery. And and Iran did say like we will retaliate against the United States.
Yeah.
And we don't know what that is.
Scary.
There was rockets that flew over and I think it did hit a US base in Qatar.
Mm-hmm.
I think something like that happened.
Yeah, I saw something like that.
But I'm nervous if there's going to be something more here on American land. And I actually don't know if it would be like a bombing. I actually think it could be like a hacking of our financial markets.
Oh, I hope not.
And I can see something like that happening.
Please, no.
Like a play into cyber warfare.
No. Pass.
Because, you know, that is is the retaliation without like dramatic escalation.
Yeah.
So I can see that happening. And you know, the United States, our money is God here, and don't fuck with our money.
True. That is a fact. Don't fuck with our money.
So, you know, I'm watching this conflict. I'm not live laugh loving this conflict. I cannot watch the videos of the children in Gaza anymore.
Good.
It literally I don't know. It makes me question whether or not like being a human is like actually a good thing.
Yeah, those videos are brutal.
Because just it's unbecoming to witness a child experience that level of suffering. It's
For sure.
unbelievable. But that is really my like 3 bits of pulpit today.
Good
little
stuff.
little bits of stories.
I think you crushed it.
Little bits, you know, just kind of keeping our heads on a swivel as we're entering this kind of like weird moment in history.
Yep. Up, down.
You know, I'm watching the court. I'm watching Trump. I'm watching Israel.
You're seeing it all.
I'm watching JoJo.
Good.
You
We need
know,
more JoJo updates.
Maybe we'll make it a segment.
Okay.
The Siwa update.
Love it.
But you know, next time I think we'll talk about the big beautiful bill.
Yep.
We're definitely gonna have to get into her, and then more court stuff, and then maybe more vicious lies and rumors.
Beautiful. We did it.
But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. This is the pulpit. If
Thank
you have
you.
topics you want me to talk about, send us an email at sofatomatoespod@gmail.com. If you think I got some things wrong, or if you want to roast me because I'm an anti-Semitic fuck, send me an email at sofatomatoespod@gmail.com. If you also agree that Israel is a fascist, you know, doing fascist fuckery, shoot us an email. If you think JoJo Siwa should go back to selling bows, send us an email.
Yeah, why not?
If you're a lesbian, I love you, and just be keeping you.
Feel free to say what's up.
Let's do a Subaru meetup.
Let's do it.
Let's
oh
do
my
it.
God. All right. Well, thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. Shoot us that email that you were talking about. Why not?
Do it. You know you want to.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, bye. Love you.